This video is a little different. Originally, I had considered putting it under my Social Justice Whiners playlist because most people working with this subject tend to be wingnut SJWs. However, this really doesn't do that. This is a high school student asking some legitimate questions that deserve to have some legitimate answers. While I have no real way of knowing, I would guess that this girl in the video is about the same age as my youngest daughter. It is well known that liberalism skews young for a number of reasons, largely due to lack of life experiences and the way they're raised. I'm not at all trying to impugn the motives or experiences of this young woman. In fact, she's largely just giving me a platform to speak in generalities because I have no way of knowing anything about her specific experiences, so please don't think that I'm coming down on or being critical of her as an individual, because that's certainly not my intention. I just want to provide my feedback to the ideas she's expressing in hopes that it helps people understand what's going on in the world around them.
Hi guys, it's Ariel and I am back with another video. Sorry I haven't been on for a very long time. I have no reason. But today I felt like I needed to discuss a more serious topic than I would usually, simply because I've noticed that it's gotten very out of hand lately. And that is, well, no, it's always been quite out of hand, but to this point it's come to my attention even more so than it usually does. So the topic I wanted to talk to you today about is slut-shaming.
You'd have to explain exactly what you mean by slut-shaming because it tends to be defined in a wide variety of ways by a wide variety of groups. Most often these days, it's a rallying cry for radical feminism who wants no consequences whatsoever for anything that any woman does at all. But let's see where this goes.
The definition of slut is a girl who has multiple sexual partners, or a girl that is not fond on cleanliness. And this is a very sexist term, I feel, because it is only revolved around girls. There is no boy in the equation. It's simply the fact a girl who has a lot of sexual partners.
While yes, I did look up the definition in the dictionary, and it is indeed as she presents it, it also says that the bit about cleanliness is an obsolete definition, and I doubt that if you ask most people today, they'd have any idea that such a thing was ever part of the definition. Words change over time, so I think we can drop that part of it entirely for this discussion. That doesn't make it sexist, though, because there are terms for such behavior as relates to men, and there's nothing at all wrong with gender-specific terminology. So we'll go with her definition, a female that has lots of sexual partners.
And to any of you who get offended easily, I guess click off now, but I've seen so much of it lately. It's getting disturbing. Like, it's sick. It's disgusting.
Honestly, if having a discussion about a subject like this disturbs some people, then I'd say there's something wrong with those people. The whole idea of triggers and people who freak out because someone says something that makes them uncomfortable, that's a sign of emotional immaturity and not something anyone should be proud of.
So, along the topics of slut-shaming, there's also, throughout schools, like, the whole category of slut-shaming, and then this also goes into what they wear. And with what they wear comes also dress code violations, and how girls are more heavily penalized for what they wear rather than what a guy wears. And I'm not into all that, oh, free the nipple. Like, I really don't care about that. You do you, man. But it's sort of... Okay, so today I found out that a friend had broken school dress code violation. And all she had been wearing was garter leggings, like the ones at Hot Topic, the Harley Quinn ones, the garter leggings. But it was under a skirt. It was under an almost knee-length skirt, so you couldn't see the garter part. But one of the principals had called her over and said, that is against dress like, dress code violation. Like, that's a dress code violation. And he made her call her mother in and had her put on jeans.
There is a difference between being a slut and dressing slutty. But this is where I really need to explain something. This girl is a minor. She goes to high school. I can't say whether it's true at her particular school or not, but I can say what happens at my daughter's school. At the start of every school year, we get a packet, and in that packet is a school dress code that my wife and I, as well as my daughter, have to sign, agreeing to follow it. You do not have the ability to opt out. These are the rules, and every student is going to follow them or face the consequences thereof. Those consequences are also spelled out in the packet. This is something I think needs to be clearly explained because a lot of people, especially young people, don't seem to understand it. Actions have consequences. These can be positive consequences or negative consequences, but there are always consequences, not only to your actions, but sometimes to your inactions as well. If you agree, as I'm sure this girl and her friend did, to follow a set of rules, then violating those rules, whether you like the rules or agree with the rules or not, will have some consequences. This is all wrapped up in one inescapable conclusion, that life isn't fair. I'm sorry, it's just not, no matter how much you might wish otherwise. Now I'm going to assume that what her friend was actually wearing did violate the dress code, and frankly, the penalty was extremely light. She just had to put on a different set of clothes. I'm not sure where this was any big traumatic experience. It's a learning opportunity. Don't do it again.
She's worn the leggings without the skirt before, and she wasn't yelled at for it. Like, our dress code at our school is very one-sided, I feel. Because while boys are sagging and showing their butts off to everyone who doesn't want to see this, girls can't wear spaghetti straps, and now it's getting hotter outside. Like, sorry, but I would rather be comfortable in a, like, tank top and not have to feel like I'm going to be sexualized and viewed as an object and a distraction because, oh no, my shoulders are showing, or you can see my boobs. Like, I don't see why that has to be objectified. It bothers me because it makes no sense. And then also you get the term slut or other derogatory terms towards women where the girl could be a virgin and she makes one joke with the guys about sleeping with another person. But it's a joke. It's a complete joke. And after that, she's labeled as a slut.
I'm sure that at your school, there's some kind of advisory body that sets the dress code. It might be a student council. It might be a PTA-like body. It might be school administrators. I'm sure it varies from school to school. Most of these dress codes exist because, at some point in time, there were problems. I can give you a personal example. Back in elementary school, on the last day of school, there was a tradition that everyone would wear their PE clothes all day, and all of your friends would sign them with a permanent marker. You'd go home at the end of the school year with your worn-out PE clothes signed by your friends and teachers, kind of like what gets done in a yearbook in high school. It had been done for years with no problems, but one of the years I was there, some people decided to write some pretty inappropriate things on the t-shirts. It was mostly toilet humor with more than a little sexual suggestiveness. I'm sure the people who did it thought it was hysterical. But because of this act, that tradition was banned because it became clear that it could be abused. Some things are harmless until they aren't. If you feel strongly about a particular part of the dress code, you should go to whatever governing body controls it and make your case. See if you can convince them to change their minds. Just ignoring the dress code and doing whatever you want to do, that's not acceptable. Being mature and trying to convince the powers that be that they should change their minds, that's something you ought to be proud of and something that will make you look good.
All these those labels put on people, and I get it, it's not just women. Guys have to deal with, like, asinine names too. Like, or like any of those names. And I get that. That's not nice towards them either. But at the same time, while you have 2 terms for guys, there's also 4 terms for women. Like, I don't get it, because we're not objects. We're human. And we make a joke once, and now we're a slut. A girl will sleep with someone that feels that she's in love with. The guy isn't penalized about it. He gets a pat on the back and oh, you go, man. Like, yeah. And the girl gets called a slut for the rest of her high school career.
There is an unfortunate reality that nobody can know what's really going on inside of your head except you. They have to take how you act and what you say, and yes, how you dress, as evidence for who you really are. She makes the example of someone who tells an inappropriate joke and gets labeled a slut. Well, of course, that's going to happen. Nobody knows that you're a virgin. They can only go by what you said, and if that gives them the wrong impression of you, well, that's the way things go. This is an important life lesson to learn, to think before you speak, and consider the possible ramifications of your words before you speak them. If your parents haven't taught you this, there's a problem. And that goes for guys too. This is a big problem in the modern world because a lot of people think that just bringing a life into the world makes them a good parent, and it doesn't. Especially today, there are a lot of people who figure that so long as their kid doesn't drop dead, that they've successfully raised a child. They do not teach their children how to act or impart important values. Many of the more liberal parents I've seen barely teach their children anything at all, most certainly not how to be good, productive citizens, which is why their kids are the most obnoxious, rude, and destructive children around. Yes, women are not objects, but neither are men. Everyone is human, but as humans, everyone has an equal responsibility to not only treat others well, but to act well so that they earn respect in the eyes of others. Respect isn't something you automatically get. It has to be earned. Your actions and behaviors are the means to that respect. You have to look at who is patting that guy on the back. It's other immature guys. It isn't the teachers. It isn't respected members of the community. It's kids, and often those kids make bad decisions. Somewhere in this video, she says something about kids owning their own bodies, but that's not really true. Oh, sure, they have some degree of physical control over them, but legally they do not. Minors do not have the right to make many decisions about their own bodies. The reason they don't is because minors lack life experience and maturity, which makes many of the decisions that they make poor life choices. The idea that you think you love someone so you jump into bed with them and get pregnant at age 15, that's not a wise life choice. Teenagers can't handle it. Many people in their 20s can't handle it. If you make those bad decisions and get labeled something you don't like because of it, it isn't the fault of the people who called you a name. It's the consequences of your actions. If you don't want bad outcomes, don't make bad choices.
And then recently, there was an issue at my school where there were students sending nudes around the school, and it was brought to the attention to the administrators because it was such a large scale of people that were involved in this, and it got to the point where kids were arrested. We're still kids, and I get it, it's your body, but we're minors. It's considered child pornography. And now, granted, some of the boys that were involved in this have been arrested, and the rest have been suspended, along with all the girls that were involved in this. But all the girls that were involved, their names are now circling around the school as sluts. They're going to come back next year, and this is still going to be a big thing because it's the end of the school year. And girls are going to come back, and they're going to be called sluts or whores or any other derogatory term due to the fact that I don't know if they were pressured in it because I don't know the full scale of it, but maybe some of them were pressured into it. Who knows? Like, nobody knows the full story. But then you also have other situations of guys or girls or anyone pressuring someone to send nudes to the person asking. And I saw a post, I think it was on Tumblr, and it was, why is it so funny to spread the girls' nudes around or the guys' nudes around? Like, the real funny part would be the begging that comes beforehand. And honestly, being someone that has been asked for nudes before, not that I ever gave them, it is pretty pathetic sometimes because some of the people, they get to the point where it's just so thirsty. They become so freaking thirsty for the... It gets to the point where it could be considered harassment. Oh, yo, you want to send me some nudes? Nah, I'm good. Not really. Don't want to. Block.
There isn't an issue at your school. There were a series of crimes going on. You acknowledged that child pornography was being passed around and that people got arrested for having done it. This is a serious offense, and people should be held accountable. Unfortunately, she says, well, they're just kids. You don't get to do things both ways. You can't perform adult crimes and then not be blamed because you're a kid. You do not have the legal right to take naked pictures of your body and send them to someone else, whether they are a minor or an adult. You simply don't. If your parents didn't raise you to understand community standards, they failed in their job of parenting. Just because somebody wants to snap naked selfies doesn't give them the right to do so. That demonstrates poor decision-making skills and immaturity. The girls who voluntarily took these pictures, well, of course they're considered sluts. They did something slutty. They did something stupid. Actions have consequences. There are things, like it or not, that once done cannot be undone. I'm sure the girls will get over their bad reputations, but a lot of the boys who went to jail for this, they're going to have to register for the rest of their lives as sex offenders. You can't take that back. That's why making good decisions is so important. It doesn't matter if the girls were pressured. They should have gone to their parents or their teachers or the police to get it to stop. So long as they didn't have a gun held to their head, they weren't forced. They're lucky they're not sitting in jail too. Peer pressure isn't a sufficient reason to break the law and make bad choices. If it's so funny to spread around the pathetic begging, why didn't anybody do that?
Oh, that girl, she's a... Because I didn't give you something to fap off to? Sorry, but... I don't know. It's been bugging me a lot. From the dress code regulations to the epidemic at my school that made the newspaper because my town has nothing else to talk about, to the fact that now everyone knows who's involved. And they're going to be called sluts now, and that's going to follow them. And then you also have, on the other side, just regular, everyday people being pressured into sending nudes. Like, it's harassment at some points, and I feel so sorry for them.
Honestly, this girl sounds like she's got the generally right idea. She rejects these bad behaviors because I'm guessing she's been raised right. But she still complains that others who perform the bad behaviors somehow are getting a raw deal. I think she needs to realize that not liking a thing doesn't give you the right to violate that thing. We all go through life having to follow rules and regulations and laws that we hate, but that we, as good citizens, follow anyhow. Disliking the rules doesn't give us the right to ignore them, and it certainly doesn't give us the right to avoid the consequences that come when we ignore them. The newspaper didn't just write up a child porn story because it had nothing better to do. It wrote it up because it was a serious crime. It may be harassment, but the solution to harassment isn't to either capitulate or to pretend that it doesn't happen. It's to tell someone and have the harassment taken care of. Stop feeling sorry and start taking action.
So, I guess my question for you is, have you ever been slut-shamed? Were you ever dressed, under violation of dress code for your school or anywhere? And I don't want to know if you had sent nudes or if you asked, but if you asked, if you planned on asking someone or you have asked enough, you can be the start of the stop today. Just enough. Because there's no need to ask someone and harass someone for a simple picture that you can go online and watch someone who is paid for it. There's no need.
Or people can start acting more maturely and expecting those around them to do the same. Social expectations are important, and that goes everywhere, even in a school. The reason it happens is because it becomes acceptable. If the majority of students put their foot down and started calling out the guys who were looking for nude selfies, if the majority of girls who got asked reported it to their parents, then it wouldn't be an issue to begin with. Oh, sure, you can say that no kid is going to do this, and anyone who does is going to be called a tattletale or whatever, but that's the nice thing about school. You can choose to be responsible, or you can choose to be irresponsible. In high school, I knew people who were shoplifting at stores and smoking weed and stealing cars. I never did it. I knew better. I recognized that some things are right and some things are wrong, and I had a choice. I made the right ones. So can you. Thanks for listening. I know this was a little bit off the beaten path, but I think it's important for people to realize that the need for responsibility starts young and applies to everyone. If you like this, make sure to like, subscribe, and comment below. I'll be back soon with more videos, so please stay tuned.